Welcome, everyone, to the Love Your Life Toolkit Summit. I'm Shannon Corporon, your host. I'm thrilled to have you here with us today. Together, we're going to explore how to connect with your highest self, transform triggers, and take aligned action to truly love yourself and your life. Throughout this summit, you're going to hear from a variety of speakers who will share powerful techniques to help you move from overwhelm, struggle, or just feeling stuck to experiencing love, freedom, peace, and joy. My hope is that you leave each session feeling empowered and ready to create a life that lights you up. I believe that everybody deserves to wake up interested in the day ahead, feeling confident and capable to overcome obstacles. Some days are incredibly tough, but our goal is to equip you with tools to shift from a heavy victim perspective or just a stuck feeling to a mindset of gratitude and alignment with your best self. From there, you can take inspired actions to up-level your life. In order to up-level our lives, it's nice if we feel stress-free, and it can happen. Today, we are blessed to have Dr. Rao share his wisdom with us, and he also shares a tool for creating a stress-free life. Dr. Rao, I'm excited to learn from you and hear your perspective on loving your life. Could you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Certainly, Shannon. My name is Srikumar Rao, and I'm an executive coach with a global clientele. And I have a specific niche in coaching. I coach people who are very successful, typically entrepreneurs or senior executives, who have achieved a fair amount of renown, but they want to have an outsized impact on the world. In the words of Steve Jobs, they'd like to make a dent in the universe. But they also have a spiritual bent, and they'd like to bring that into every aspect of their life. So that's the sandbox in which I play.
Awesome. So much we can learn there. Before we go into that one, I say love your life. What comes to your mind?
I mean that every day when you wake up, you should be radiantly alive. Your blood should be singing at the thought of being who you are and doing what you do. As you go through the day, you can almost fall to your knees in involuntary gratitude at the tremendous good fortune that has been bestowed on you.
And so, how have you cultivated the ability to do that? How have you helped the people that you work with cultivate this radiant interest?
That is the goal, Shannon. And getting there is a continuous journey. And the way you measure yourself is each day, am I a little bit more like that than I was before? So it's an ongoing process.
It definitely is an ongoing process and one that we have to continually set an intention for each.
Yes. Mhm.
And so I'm curious about, can you share an obstacle that you worked through that you navigated through using the principles that you teach?
Oh, many, many things, but let me share one with you. This one comes from an ancient Sufi tale. There was a man and his son, and they lived in a beautiful valley, and they were happy, but they were also dirt poor. And the man got sick and tired of being poor, and he decided to become rich. And he decided the way he was going to do that was by breeding and selling horses. Uh, he bought a stallion. He didn't have enough money to buy a stallion, so he borrowed heavily from the neighbors. And the very day he got the stallion, it kicked the top bar loose from the paddock where he housed it and ran away. And the neighbors came around and said, "You were going to become a rich man, but your stallion has run away, and you still owe us money. You are screwed." And the man shrugged his shoulder and said, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" That stallion fell in with a group of wild horses, which were close to where the man lived, and he was able to entice them into his paddock, which he had repaired. So escape was no longer possible. And all of a sudden, he had a stallion back plus a dozen wild horses. And by the standards of that village, that made him a wealthy man. And the neighbors came around and said, "We thought you were destitute, but fortune has smiled upon you. How lucky you are." And he shrugged his shoulder and said, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" The man and his son started to break the horses so they could sell them on the market. And one of the horses threw the man's son, and stomped on his leg and it broke and it healed crooked. And the neighbors came around and said, he was such a fine young lad, and now he'll never find a girl to marry him. How sad. And the man shrugged his shoulders and said, good thing, bad thing, who knows? That summer, the king of the country declared war on a neighboring country, and press gangs moved through the villages, rounding up all the able bodied young men to serve in the army. But this man's son had a crooked leg, so he was spared. And the neighbors had tears in their eyes as they rolled around and said, we don't know if we'll ever see our sons alive, but you still have your son. How lucky you are. And he shrugged his shoulder and said, good thing, bad thing, who knows? And it goes on like that forever. But there's an important lesson here. And the important lesson here is that you never know whether anything that happens to you is good or bad. Now, look at your life. Can you recall anything that happened in your life a few years ago that at the time it happened, you thought, oh my God, this is terrible? But looking back upon it now with the perspective of time and perhaps greater wisdom, you can say, well, that wasn't so bad after all. Or maybe even that was a good thing. I'm sure you can recall lots of such instances. So if something happened to you in the past that at the time it happened, you labeled bad, but you can now look back and say it wasn't so bad, or maybe even it was good. Is it possible that what you're today about to label a bad thing could in X years turn out to be good? Is it possible? Just asking yourself that question will move you to a different emotional domain. And if you then ask yourself the next question, what can I do proactively to actually make it a good thing? And you move seamlessly from the realm of despair to the realm of possibility. Understand, Shannon, that no event which occurs can cause you suffering. Suffering happens the moment you label that event, this is bad, this is terrible, I cannot bear it. Let's say you get fired from your job. Okay, you now have a lot of spare time. But if you go, oh God, I got fired from it. How am I going to meet my mortgage payments? I've got my kids' tuition due. This is terrible. And the moment you stick the label, this is bad, this is terrible on it, at that moment, suffering begins. Suffering doesn't begin when you lose your job. It begins the moment you label it, this is terrible. But as we've just seen, in your own life, there have been many things which happened that at the time it happened, you thought was terrible, but now you can look back and say, wasn't so terrible, or maybe even good. So how about this one? And you know what? If you don't label anything that happens to you, this is bad, suffering never begins.
Definitely.
That is an extremely powerful tool. And I have had students who've taken my course and I met them 20 years afterwards and they said, you know, Professor Rao, that one teaching of yours has stood me in such great stead. I use it every day, practically.
Yeah, definitely.
That's an example.
And with as we get older with wisdom, we can see that. We can look back on things and go, okay, that was actually a blessing. And
Yes,
so I just now, when something bad happens, I'll react, I'll be like, oh, but then I'm like, okay, I know from past experience and, my spiritual beliefs that all things are working for my good. So how is this working for my good? And
mhm,
that just like releases you from
yes,
the heavy feel to a different perspective. Okay, this happened. Let's see what I need to change or what perspective I need to shift or how can this be a blessing? So definitely, and I so agree with the stories. It happened. And so we get to control how we interpret that.
exactly.
And we don't have to
I
go to
always maintain what happens to you is important. The stories you tell yourself about what happens to you is much more important.
so many times, like we kind of know this, right? Like this idea has come across, but so many times that is not people's go-to. What kind of things have you helped people do in order to overcome this shift in their mind in order to make, to try to see the good or how can this be a blessing or to
One
look at
thing
it
that
in a different
helps is I get people to think of their awareness like a flashlight. What does a flashlight do, Shannon? A flashlight illuminates whatever you shine it on, correct? Shine it on the floor, lights up the floor, shine it on the ceiling, lights up the ceiling. I'll prove it to you right now. I want you to take the flashlight of your awareness and shine it on the chair in which you're sitting.
Mhm.
And the moment you do that, you can feel the pressure of your buttocks on the seat. You can feel the fabric or the leather against the back of your thigh, correct? 30 seconds ago, you were not aware of any of that, but now you are. Why? Because you shone the flashlight of your awareness on it. Where do we typically shine the flashlight of our awareness? Typically, we shine the flashlight of our awareness on the two, three, or four things that are wrong in our life. More precisely, we shine the flashlight of our awareness on the three or four things that are wrong in our lives or what we think are wrong in our lives. And what about the 50 or 60 things that are pretty damn good about our lives? We have a bed to sleep in, we have food to eat, we have a roof over our head. We never shine the flashlight of our awareness on these, so it passes by unnoticed. It's a lousy strategy. What I advise everyone who takes my program or becomes a coaching client is consciously shine the flashlight of your awareness on the many ways in which you're incredibly blessed. Do it last thing at night before you go to bed. When you get up in the morning, don't go immediately to the space of, oh my God, there's too much to do. I don't have enough time to do it all. Bring up the many ways in which you're blessed beyond belief. Bathe in it, soak in it, marinate in it, shower in it. Inundate yourself in it. And as you go through the day, constantly recall how lucky you are, how truly blessed you are. Initially, it'll feel like a chore, but if you consistently, deliberately do it, it'll become natural. And you will live in the default emotional domain of appreciation and gratitude. And that's extremely important because when you're in the default emotional domain of appreciation and gratitude, you're not worried, you're not nervous, you're not anxious, you're not fearful. The two cannot coexist. And from that default emotional domain of appreciation, gratitude, go out and do things that you need to fix the parts of your life that you think need fixing. But do it from the domain of appreciation, gratitude, and not from the domain of scarcity and want. That is a learnable skill.
It so is. And I have been writing in a gratitude journal every night for almost 30 years. And when I first began, I did grow up in a household that focused on what we were grateful for, but I had to look for things that I was grateful for because I knew I was going to need to write it down.
Mhm.
And after doing that every night, it's my default. It is just a part of who I am. I see the good, and then it just becomes a part of who you are. And just like you said, that if I can look at my problems when I'm in this state, uplifted state, then I'm more clearly to connect with my inner wisdom and for my highest self, and then options for, moving forward in a more positive way come to light.
Exactly.
And then I also found that, and I do this with my clients as well, is you talked about setting your intention for the day to see the good, to focus on the things that you're grateful for. And I have found that I set timers on alarms on my phone so that I can have moments of presence, because it's so easy to get sucked into whatever's going
Yes.
on in the day.
If you don't choose to set your intention, the world will choose it for you, and it might not always make a good choice.
Right. So what about you? Is it just a part of who you are now, or are there practices that you have that allow you to
Very much. You know, it's an everyday thing. Each day you grow a little bit. So it's very much a conscious effort every day.
And so, like, what do you do, or what do you have your clients do every day so that they can remember to be conscious?
Oh, well, one of the things that I do is a very practical tool. So I'm going to show you right now. This is my smartphone, and you can see how many alarms I have set. So on any given day, I take about 20 of those at random, and every time it beeps is a time for me to look back and say, am I in my inner world? Am I being carried away by my mental chatter, or am I observing my mental chatter? It's a very, very good, simple, powerful tool to always keep you on the road.
Me too. That's exactly what I do. I have alarms all day because if not, especially like so many people like look at their phone first thing in the morning, and I'm like, oh no, we're not going to allow your email or Instagram or
WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, all those
control.
attention suckers which take you to horrible places many times.
I know. And so I'm going to set my intention, and then I'm going to need to remind myself during the day
Yeah.
to, get back into alignment.
I'm
And
not at all surprised, Shannon, that you're using a similar technique.
you have to, or you just get pulled away. So
Yes.
so we've talked about this. I'm sure these are all the ways that you love your life, but do you have anything else, a habit or a tool that helps you love
Another
your
tool
life?
that I have is when I read books which I find inspiring, I mark them up heavily. I take notes in the margin and highlight them. Let me see. Okay, I have a book right here. So as you can see, this is a book, and if you look through, you'd see that I have marked them very, very heavily. And I take notes. And anytime I feel that I am not at my very best, I take time out, go back 5 minutes, and reread the sections that I've underlined or taken notes on. And I find books have a tremendous ability to raise your level of consciousness. So I use that as a conscious tool. Music has the ability too. So hard rock, heavy metal, and so on take you to places where uh, you're not at your very top. So I prefer Islamic calls to prayer, Buddhist chanting, Vedic chanting, Gregorian chanting, music like that, which has the capacity to elevate your consciousness. Have that playing in the background subliminally, and
Yeah.
then influence your mood and where you are.
And your mood and where you are is so important to be able to connect with your highest self and love your life. Yeah. So we're talking about a toolkit. So all of these things for all of our listeners, we want to create this. You want to have the alarms on your phone. You want to have your book or your sacred text or whatever your favorite thought that can bring you back in to present so you can connect with your highest self. I use music all the time. Create a playlist that you know is going to elevate your spirit when you start to feel low. And so, yes, go ahead.
And breathing, don't forget breathing, Shannon.
For sure.
Most of the time when you're agitated, you'll find, not most of the time, all of the time when you're agitated, when you're angry, when you're lustful, when you're scared, you're breathing shallow and you're breathing fast. So just the simple act of focusing on your breath, taking very deep, very slow breath, feel your chest expand as you breathe in, feel your belly expand after your chest expands, and then feel your chest contract as you breathe out and your belly contract. Focus on the breath, see it going in and going out. That itself will take you to a different place.
That should be the first step. That's definitely the first step. And then just like you were saying, it's kind of like putting the flashlight on that. And when you're focused on your breath and your body movement, then the other things start to fall
All
away.
the other things fall into play. Exactly.
Yeah. And then you can connect to some of those
And
other.
I advise my client before they go to any important meeting, before they go to anything which is important, pause for a couple of minutes, breathe, center yourself, and then go into that meeting, into that conversation, whatever it is that is important.
And that is such a good tool to before you enter any new state of phase of your day, just to get present and set your intention. That's something I'm always working on. I so know to do this, but sometimes, I'm happy and whatever, and I'm just flowing in, and that's good to go into that state. But it would have been so much better if I would have set an intention, and taking a breath with it. So that is such a good tool. How do you how do you get yourself to do that? Because I'm super aware of it and I use all of these tools, but sometimes I just forget as I'm going into a new, you know, adventure to,
It's become a habit now, Shannon. So,
yeah. I think what I thought about the other day is before each, just setting an alarm right before each. So and I know that'll become a habit because it's all about our habits, and to create something in our life. So is there anything else that you would like to share that you teach with our audience?
certainly, one of the things I'd like to share is invest in the process, not the outcome. Here's how most of us live a life. I set a goal for myself. I tried very hard to achieve it. I succeeded. Life is a blast. I set a goal for myself. Tried very hard to achieve it. I failed. Life sucks. We live a life oscillating on a sinusoidal curve between elation and despair. We spend altogether too much time on the despair end of the spectrum. It's a lousy way to live. There is a better way. Set a goal for yourself, but once you've set a goal for yourself, forget about it. That's right, forget about it. A goal is a destination, an outcome. It's not under your control whether you'll get there or not. Instead, pour all of your emotional energy into the actions that you have to undertake in order to meet your goal. If you actually meet the goal, fantastic. If you don't meet the goal, fantastic. Because the mistake we make, Shannon, is we think that the benefit of setting a goal and trying our level best to achieve the goal is achieving the goal. Not so. The true benefit of setting a goal and trying our level best to achieve the goal is the learning and growth that happen in you and to you as you try your level best to achieve the goal. If you actually achieve the goal, that's a bonus. But the funny thing is, when you are genuinely non attached to the outcome, the probability that you will meet the goal you set for yourself actually increases. There's a wonderful Zen saying that encapsulates this. The purpose of washing dishes is not to get them clean. The purpose of washing dishes is to wash the dishes. The byproduct is they become clean.
Mm. Yeah. It really is. It's such a trite saying, but it is all about the journey. The goal is just kind of like the direction you're
The
heading.
journey is the only thing you have, Shannon.
Yeah,
The goal is a mirage. You're there, you tarry a few minutes, and you're off somewhere else. The journey is with you always.
always.
Journey is the only thing you have, so you might as well enjoy the journey. People talk about, I want to climb Mount Everest. How much time do you spend on top of Mount Everest? A few minutes to a half hour max. You get up there, your buddy takes a picture of you, your buddy gets up there, you take a picture of him, and you're on your way down, and you hope you don't get killed in an avalanche. So if you're going to climb Mount Everest, you better enjoy the weeks and months of acclimatization on Base Camp 1, Base Camp 2, and all the rest. It's exactly that way in life. The journey is with you always. The journey is the only thing you have. So learn to enjoy the journey.
Yeah, and I have a bunch of young college kids. I have them myself, and then all their friends, and they're so focused. And they're like, "But what if we don't succeed?" Well, you got a whole lot of knowledge, met a whole lot of people along the way, and now you have information to take you to your next goal. And so it's not, and then I work with people that are, going to retire, and we're going to get here, we're going to meet here, and it was like, well, your life doesn't end. You want to be interested in things, and there's always more to learn and to grow and to connect with people. So thank you for sharing everything with us, Dr. Rao. And I know that you have a free gift for our viewers. Will you please share that with us?
Say that again.
The free gift that you are going to
So I
share.
have an ebook, and the ebook is how you can reframe your life so that there is no stress whatsoever in your life. And this is proven techniques which work. And I am happy to give that as my gift to your readers. And I wish them well. And I wish them no stress in their life at all.
Well, that would be awesome. A no stress life. We have a free gift. Let's all go and definitely get that one. Everybody, I encourage you to grab that. The link for that free gift is in the email that came with this video. That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. We can already tell that Dr. Rao has so many great strategies. So we know that this book is worth us, going and checking out. And everybody, I am so grateful that you're going on this journey with us to love your life and to love yourself. And please get Dr. Rao's book, and I'll be really excited to hear what you learned. What did you pick up? And Dr. Rao, how can our audience follow you?
If they go to my website, which is www.therawinstitute.com, and there's a big button there which says join now. And if they sign up there, then they'll get my blog and information about my programs. They can also browse my website, read copies of my blogs, or if they go to YouTube and put my name in the search engine, dozens of videos will pop up. So there are many ways that they can learn about me and keep in touch.
Yeah, I know so many people are going to want to connect with what you have to share. So thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Shannon. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Yes, and everybody remember that you're blessed and you're a blessing.
Yes.
That love surrounds you. I'll see you in the next video. Check your email tomorrow for that link. Bye-bye.
Thank you.